You know, that data test method attribute is kind of cool, but data row is a little limited. There's not a lot of values we can pass to it. It's not a lot of flexibility. But it turns out that the dynamic data attribute will solve a lot of those problems. So let's take a look at it. So we've got a test method here that uses the data test method attribute and data row. And that's cool, but it's a little bit limiting. Let me show you what I mean by that. For example, the parameter values that you pass in here have to be pretty simple and known at runtime. So let me give you an example of what I mean. Let's say that instead of paint red, I wanted to put a field value in there and then define that value. So even here where we have all the information the compiler could possibly need, it still won't let you do this. In fact, you can't even put decimal values in here. And we can see that even if I were to change this to decimal, the compiler won't allow this. As you can see, an attribute argument must be a constant expression, type of expression, or array creation expression of an attribute parameter type. So it's limited is the point. So if we want something a little bit more flexible, instead of using data row, we can use dynamic data. First, we'll get rid of this other stuff and bring us back to the point where we were. And to make things a little more interesting, let's go ahead and expand our code under test method a little bit. It really doesn't matter what we do. We're just going to add some code to it to make this a little more interesting. So here we are in the mix method, and I'll just add some code. So it really doesn't matter what this code does. So as you can see, I've added an enumeral brown. I don't know if you mixed a lot of paint together as a kid, but it seems like anytime you mix two colors together other than just a few of them, you ended up with brown. And I've added some code here in the mix method to handle more of the colors that could be mixed together. And there are too many colors at this point to want to by hand list all the possible colors that could be created by mixing together a couple of other colors. So let's go back to our test code. And I'm going to replace data row with dynamic data. So now I've got this idea of a paint selection source where my data will be coming from, and so of course I need to define it. So most of this code is just here to flesh out the example. The important points are that the method is static, that it generates an array of objects that are IEnumerable or that implement the IEnumerable interface, and that we yield return a collection of sets of values for the two paints mixed together in some kind of expected value. So going back to the test method now, our data will come from the method that's specified by the dynamic data attribute. And for all the data in the dynamic data attribute method, which in this case is paint selection source, test method 1 will be executed. So let's take a look at the results of doing that. So as you can see, we have one pass. If we drill down into the results, we actually ran it 50 times. And here you see those results. And we probably would not have wanted to have hand-coded those as data rows. Now, if for some reason it's necessary, we could have coded this as a property instead. It would be simply a matter of changing method to property, and then coding our data source as a property. And after making that change, we can rerun the method. And we get the same results. So that's the data test method attribute with the dynamic data attribute. Pretty cool. Thanks for watching.